So I was going to review this book. I was going to go on and just do a normal review. I didn't want to do a review. I wanted to do a discussion. So this is The Surface Breaks, a reimagining of The Little Mermaid. Now, let's go into this discussion with some context. The Little Mermaid is a story by Hans Christian Andersen. The story is the Little Mermaid, as she comes of age, gets to visit the surface. She has lots of sisters, and I think we're all probably slightly aware of the Disney cartoon, which is one of my favourite Disney films. But this is not the Disney cartoon. So the Little Mermaid witnesses a shipwreck. She saves a prince. She gets to the prince to land, and in that moment she falls in love with him. She pines for him, she longs for him, and then goes to the sea witch, or in some adorations under a different name, but a version of the sea witch, and says, "Can you give me legs?" Little Mermaid, being a spectacular singer, has to make sacrifices. She loses her voice. And we're not talking a wisp of magical air coming out of the mouth like they did in Disney. We're talking literally her tongue is plucked from her mouth. And there are other consequences. When she walks, she feels like knives are cutting her feet. Like she's walking on broken glass or knives or blades. But she's gifted with being an excellent dancer. The prince doesn't fall in love with the mute girl. Doesn't happen, and the prince falls in love with someone else. She's even a bridesmaid at the wedding in some versions of the tale. Her sisters come to the surface, and they've given their hair to the sea witch in exchange for a dagger. So the Little Mermaid can return to the sea. She must take this dagger, plunge it into the prince's heart, spill his heart's blood on her feet, and jump back in the ocean. She goes to do it, and she can't. The prince doesn't love her, but she can't sacrifice him. So she jumps into the water anyway, and drowns. Hans Christian Andersen's story has two endings. One is she jumps into the water and turns to sea foam, like all mer people do, because they're soulless. They have very long lives, but they don't have a soul. They only live once. In later editions, he added an ending where she starts descending up. She goes up. She gets pulled into the sky and becomes a daughter of the air, or something similar, to earn a soul because she can't, because of what she couldn't do. The Little Mermaid is a very bizarre morality tale, but like all of Hans Christian Andersen's work, the religious subtext of his work is definitely quite strong. He was a Christian and quite religious in his lifetime. It's been adapted 1,000 times by different things, different media. We're all very aware of the Disney film where the Little Witch has the happy ending and there's a bee on my windowsill. That has the happy ending. It has the happy ending, and although don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful Disney film, but it's a very loose adaptation of the story. It replaces some characters and gives the Sea Witch a much bigger role, and don't we all love Ursula? I just want to say this is Ursula, not fabulous. So we go in with The Surface Breaks. I just wanted to say to the cover artist, how beautiful is this? I mean, even under the jacket is pretty. And scale. The Surface Breaks is a feminist retelling of The Little Mermaid. Yeah, that was the big thing about this book, that everyone talked about it. This takes it in a slightly different direction. It fleshes out her story, it fleshes out the backstory, and you get more of an understanding. It also introduces another merpeople myth, which originates from Eastern Europe. she visits this sea witch and gets her legs. But she does fall in love with the prince. It is kind of that insta-love moment, although he's not a prince in this. I didn't read him as a prince. I think the setting of this is slightly moved forward as well. I think the setting is very much moved forward. Although it's not modern day, it's kind of its own little historical fantasy bubble. So she goes to the sea witch and gets her legs in the same way, and like before, her tongue is cut out, which is gross, and she gets her legs and she wakes up. So you get more of that story. You understand the character's motivations a lot more. You understand her motivations. You get a lot set underwater. You get a lot of her and her sisters, her father, very overprotective, overbearing pig, to be blunt about it. And it also fleshes out the Little Mermaid's mother. The mother of the Little Mermaid is a character that's never really talked about, and in this it's implied that she's killed by humans. Spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But, so when she goes onto land, when she walks, this is the bit that made my skin crawl a little bit, because I'm quite squeamish about this stuff. When she walks, she's physically cut, her feet. It's really, really disgusting. I mean, gaping wounds and open flesh and pieces of bone exposed. It's like, woohoo! And she survives a rather long hike, and I'm like, oh, just that makes my skin crawl, but that's my own squeamishness. The character of the Little Mermaid is also named, and she's engaged to a merperson. It fleshes out these characters greatly, and it fleshes them out in the most brilliant way. All the characters have a lot of depth. You know them, you get into them. They're not just, I'm a vacant character in the background just for smiles. You know, you feel like the book definitely leaves a mark, because she ends up dealing with all the issues that a lot of girls and women and boys deal with in the world. You know, it deals with body shaming, it deals with sexual assault, it deals with unrequited love, it deals with childhood trauma, it deals with a hell of a lot of stuff in a very punchy way. And it worried me because I thought it was going to be a little bit fanficky, but actually I'm pleasantly surprised. The Little Mermaid as a myth has existed for a long time. Mermaids as a myth have been around for a very long time, be them sea sirens, be them creatures that lure their men boats and men into the water. To countless other cultures, they exist in every culture. And it's quite fun reading a book about this. It's a fun read. So we're going to go into some criticism here. So my criticism of this book is I don't think it knows what it wants to be. So in the UK it's published by Scholastics. I don't know who will publishing it worldwide, but for the UK edition it's Scholastics. This book isn't YA. It's not a children's book either. This is definitely not. I think older teenagers, sort of 15 onwards maybe, will get this, but actually this book is not YA. It deals with subjects in a very blunt and upfront way. It's uncomfortable in part because of that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It forces you to face them head on, like the characters are. But I don't think it knows what it wants to be. It doesn't want to be YA, but it doesn't want to be an adult book. And it's not, I detest the word new adult in general, because it just seems a cop-out. There is language in this book. The F word pops up a few times. You have things are implied, and there's a scene with a piercing into her tail. It's like a pearl, and it's like, what are you implying here? That's my criticism of this book. It's beautifully written, it's whimsical, it's lovely, but it doesn't know what it wants to be. This book would probably sit better on the adult bookshelf, purely because of its subject matter and how it deals with it. I wouldn't be happy with a 12-year-old reading this book. And that's just because of how it deals with things, and there are things in this book 12-year-olds don't need to know about yet. And I know that makes me sound like a prude, but I'm being honest. But that's my only criticism. This book, it's beautifully written. I love her writing style, I love her poise, I love her use of English, I love the first person narrative. I love the fact that when I sat there and I read this on the train, I took in every word. I didn't feel the need to skim over anything. The ending, without saying too much, is a shock. She doesn't die in the end, I'll put it that way. She grows up. And weirdly, it's the kind of book with a lot of sequel bait. So if there is a sequel, I would like to read that. Just to put this out there, please write a sequel to this, because there is enough sequel bait in this that you think I want to read it. It is a fascinating book, and kudos to the cover artist. So I'll put their details there. So if you want to check out their work, there it is. And kudos to the writer for being brave enough to tackle a story like The Little Mermaid and flesh it out and bring it up to date. So tell me, what's your favourite fairy tale adaptations? What's your favourite fairy tales? Have you read this? What did you think? Tell me in the comments below.